Coming Down is proudly sponsored by Colorado Ganja Gear, high-quality, artistically inspired herb grinders. So let me tell you, these things are great. I actually own one. My favorite part is the perfect consistency you get after grinding. Some grinders just pulverize your herb into dust, but the razor-sharp teeth and smooth action on these always leave you with perfect, fluffy, evenly ground herb. The craftsmanship is top-notch, made from aircraft-grade aluminum to guarantee you won't get metal shavings mixed into your herb. But the best part, truly, is each grinder features original artwork created by Colorado artist Lori Beatty. She creates unique mandalas that are laser-etched into each magnetic lid. And each grinder comes in a silk bag and has free shipping. So just go to etsy.com/shop/Colorado Ganja Gear and enter the code COMINGDOWN in all caps for $5 off, or go to the show notes for this episode and follow the link. Thanks and enjoy the episode. Well, hello everyone. Welcome to Coming Down. My name is Nathan. I'm here with Matthew.
Guten Tag.
Dude, I love the salutations. Yeah, man, so not a whole lot going on this week, but we have some exciting stuff to announce.
Some really exciting stuff.
Yeah, so as we have been plugging away for this live show, we also have some giveaway. Oh, we talked about it last week.
We did.
And we didn't have it sorted out.
We were very well prepared
Yes.
to announce that we were making an announcement.
Right. Classic move. So, but now we've got it figured out. So here's how it goes. So go to the show notes this week. We'll have a picture of the poster that you can receive. These are gifts from Tara, our guest from last week's episode, and they are straight from NASA. They're these really cool
For Chandra, the space telescope.
Right, totally. That's what it is for. Yeah, and so there's all these like cool, space telescopic pictures and
Deep space images.
Anyway, go to the website comingdownpod.com, go to the show notes for this week, and you'll see the picture of the poster. And the way you can win said poster, we figured it out.
We got it.
So we're going to do a social media push for our live show. So all you need to do is share it on the social media of your choice. So if you're not on Twitter, no biggie. So we'll have a link for the Facebook event, so you can share it on Facebook. You can still share it on Twitter. Or if you want to grab the poster from the show notes, the picture of the poster, you can share that on Instagram. And for each social media share, if you have accounts for all three, we'll get you an entry for each one you do. And so please just help us push this live show, and that's what we're really looking for. And hashtag it Coming Down Live, and just drop us a message and say you shared it on whatever platform, and we'll enter you into the contest, and we'll do the drawing. Maybe we'll even do it live at the show.
Why not, right?
Yeah,
then
totally.
They can just take it home.
Right, yeah. If you're not from out of town or couldn't get your plane tickets booked.
Oh, yeah. We could always ship it if that's the case.
Yeah, totally. But anyhow, so that's how that's going to go. We'll keep reminding everyone. We'll run that from here until the live show. And just please share it. Help us promote that live show. And speaking of, that live show is September 21st.
September 21st.
21st, so day after the Area 51 raid.
Yes.
And also, I just found out it's the day after Hot Chips, so I gotta take it easy. Well, I either gotta take it easy or get ultra weird and try and carry that into the next day.
Wow.
But I likely will just take it easy at Hot Chip. And,
I was gonna say, you'd really have to gird your loins for that.
So that is September 21st at the Firkin Tavern at 4 p.m. It's free. Come on out. We're going to do some live silliness. And, that's that.
Yeah, we'd love to see you there.
Totally. Don't really have anything to say about this episode. This is just a little fun one-off anecdote from some of my darker days.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. And, that's all I'll really say about that. So we'll just turn you loose. Like I already mentioned, comingdownpod.com, that's the mothership. That's going to have show notes. Oh, and we've got all the show notes from last week's episode up. So there's a bunch of cool pictures from Tara's time at NASA. And she dropped me this huge file of stuff. So we're still actually weeding through some of that stuff and uploading more. So if you've already checked them, go ahead and check back, because there might be even more pictures uploaded on there.
Such cool stuff.
Yeah, totally. And then that website will have the links to get you to all the places you need to go. So any of the platforms, one of which you're surely listening to us on right now. And then also that'll have the links to get a hold of us. So if you want to hit us on Twitter at ComingDownPod, or email us comingdownpod@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you, and if you want to be on the show, that's the best way to hit us up. So yeah, you got anything else to add, man?
Let's go.
Let's do it. So, I got a story for you.
All right.
So, I'm trying to figure out where to begin with this. I guess...
Begin at the beginning.
Yeah, I guess the beginning of this sort of is... I'll just talk about the apartment that I lived in for a minute, because it was kind of amusing, and there's actually a couple little, like, side stories that I could just drop in here.
All right.
So, this was, like, 2008, and I moved into this apartment. And I was kind of in a real bad place, and I guess like I won't give it away because I haven't told the story that led to me being in this bad place yet.
All right.
But I was in a real bad way, and was definitely just like struggling with money and struggling to like figure out what I was even doing with my life and stuff. And so I moved into this apartment with this buddy of mine, and things didn't go well with me and him, and in fact this sort of led to the end of our friendship living together. And this is so common, like living with people, you know, like living with people usually doesn't bring anyone closer together. It usually just like ruins friendships. So
yeah, I mean, you certainly learn everyone's annoying habits, you know?
Right, totally. And then, yeah, and you just get in this weird, like, complacency zone where, you know, it's like, I don't know. So, anyhow, and I won't really belabor that story because it's not particularly interesting, and it only sort of just, like, paints this dude in a bad light, and I hope he's well, but I haven't spoken to him in a long time.
Fair.
But... So he moved out. I sort of like kicked him out, and then ended up living with another guy who was also sort of a pain in the ass and like a huge alcoholic. But we got along for a minute, but then eventually I had to kick him out. And at that point, I was and I was like sort of working during the time. Actually, I was working at that gas station during the story that I went to jail. So this was sort of the end of that whole thing, like dealing with my license and stuff. And so I was like paying all this extra money to the courts and the DMV to like keep fucking with my license. And I was just in sort of a bad way and couldn't really seem to lock down any work that actually paid the bills, and like was just having a hard time like keeping my head above water. So, but what was crazy was like, this was like an apartment complex, you know, with like a big management company, and you know, so it wasn't like a private landlord. And but for whatever reason, like the girl who worked in the front office just took a shine to me. She just loved the shit out of me.
All right.
And so I would be late on rent constantly, and she would not charge me late fees and just like hit me up or like put a note on my door and be like, hey, come see me. And I'd go in and be like, hey, you know, like I'm struggling, I'm like trying to put it together, I'll get rent. And she'd be like, okay, well, like can you get like 10% together and all this stuff. So it was kind of a lot of this stuff going on. And yeah, and like this went on for a while, man, and I was just sort of struggling. God damn, fuck. Even after that second dude I kicked out, I moved in with another girl, and we only worked out for like 2 months before I was like, I don't think that our living situation's gonna work, so she moved out. Jeez. It was crazy, man. I don't know.
That sucks.
I'll chalk a lot of it up to me being in a bad way, but I was also like living with mentally unstable people and alcoholics. So yeah. Like I'm just gonna chalk it all up to that.
That's fair. I mean, it's not easy.
Yeah, and this is sort of just a roundabout way to just kind of compile like everything that I was going through in this place. Like I was also and I was still working at the club. That's when I had finally gotten my bartending gig there, so I was starting to like maybe make a little bit of income through that.
That's the club with the Red King, where the Red King performed?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and the Red King probably happened maybe while I was living in this apartment, but and so Yeah, so there were a number of things going on in my life while I was living there. Mostly just struggling to keep my head above water, and it was kind of one of those first time, I had like a good stretch in my early 20s, and then kind of in my mid-late 20s, I was just like, fuck, I don't know what I'm doing anymore, man.
I feel like everybody hits that.
Yeah, and I think my band broke up, and so I was like, I didn't have a musical project for a minute, and just like didn't have anything going on, and didn't know what to do, and so I was just trying to work and just try and like pay my rent, which I was failing at pretty miserably. But a number of interesting things happened while I lived in this apartment. One was this one night. This is just a side anecdote that I don't know where I'd ever put it in, but we lived about 2 blocks from this bar, and it was this shitty like sports bar called Pitchers.
Oh shit!
And like we hated going there, but it was the walkable bar, and so we'd go there, and they had pool tables and stuff. But one night, we were there drinking, and all my friends took off, and I was like, all right, well, I guess, like, because I was still in the mood to hang. I was like, who wants to come back? And no one did, and I was like, all right, fine. And so I'm like walking my bike back home, and I'm cutting through behind the apartments, like, so you could see like people's porches and stuff. Mm-hmm. And there's these guys out on their porch, and they're like, hey, what's up, dude? And I was like, hey, what's up? Just like coming home from the bar and stuff. And they're like, oh, cool, man. And I was like, you guys smoke weed? And they were like, hell yeah. And I was like, cool, let me run home and grab some weed. I'll come back and hang out with you guys. They were like, cool, and like gave me their apartment number. So I like run home, drop off my bike, like grab a bowl and like a piece and stuff, and walk over there, knock on the door, and I walk in, and the apartment is barren. They've got 1 table and like 3 chairs, and that's it. There are like no electronics, there's nothing, right? And I'm like,
what the fuck?
Yeah, and I was like, oh man, this is weird. And then they all like start talking to me, and I didn't catch it when I was talking to them on the porch, but they're all like very Russian.
Excellent.
Yeah, and it was just like, oh shit, man, okay. And so I'm just like joking around with them, but like they're Russian, and so even if I'm joking around, like they were stone faced, right? Like they're not like into me at all. I'm like, oh shit, man, I'm just trying to be like drunk, lively, like guy here or whatever, like smoke a bowl, and then I get real high and paranoid, and I was like, oh fuck, I gotta get out of here, dude.
Right.
Yeah, and so like, yeah, and then they got really, because I was like, I gotta go, and then they all got really weird and like all stood up and stuff. I was like, oh no, but luckily nothing bad happened. But that was just like a weird aside. That was just, oh man, and that was just par for the course for living in this apartment, like, and like I had constant problems with my upstairs neighbors. Like at one point we had these neighbors that I called the moshing lumberjacks, because I swear that they were both 6 feet tall, and all they did was like mosh pit because they were just so fucking loud. But then they moved out, and then all of a sudden the people who lived above me constantly were pounding on the floor, like for anything that I ever did. And I even got like notes on my door about like keeping the music down and stuff. Wow. And it's like, and I didn't get that rowdy in this apartment because didn't really even have money to.
Right.
And but yeah, I think I may have mentioned it on this pod before, but that's when I started bartending. And so one night I just was so fed up. It was 8 p.m. and I was just listening to music in my bedroom at a totally quiet volume, and they start pounding on the floor. And so I just put Funky Cold Medina on repeat and like turn it up just enough that you wouldn't be able to hear it from outside, but they definitely heard it upstairs. And I just went to work. I was like, well, I get off at 3. I hope you guys like Funky Cold Medina, because that's all you're hearing for the next like 6 hours.
Oh my god.
Yeah, and so I did that, and then they definitely stopped pounding on the floor.
Oh my god.
Yeah. There were a number of other weird things, like out on the back porch. Like if you walked out on the back porch, there was like, if you look to the right, there was basically, I mean, just the way the building was designed, there was basically like a chute that went all the way up to the 3rd floor. And so basically anyone on their patio could just drop shit off the side of their patio, and then it would just like fall next to my little patio, because I'm on the ground floor. And I found like diapers in there, and just like beer bottles and just like all sorts of shit. I'm just like, what the fuck, man? What the fuck is this place? So it was not the most enjoyable place. Also, it was the apartment complex that was right next to my high school. the apartment complex that I hung out around
Right.
when I was in high school. You know, I'd go on lunch break
Yeah.
and like hang around this apartment complex. I was just like, man, this fucking sucks, dude. Like, nothing about this is cool, except for the girl in the office who like let me be late on rent all the time.
Sure.
So I was keeping afloat. I think eventually I had to borrow some money from my grandparents just to like, because I think I was like 3 months behind rent at one point.
Fuck.
Yeah, and like had to borrow a couple $1,000s just to like get back on track.
Damn.
But anyway, that's all just sort of sets the stage for this fucking bullshit that happened. So one day I wake up and yeah, I was working at the bar, so I was like sleeping in pretty late, you know, like sleeping until like past noon because I was working until 4 or 5 in the morning.
Right.
And a friend of mine who was staying over at the time, I get up and she was like, "Hey, oh yeah, shit, dude. Before I even get into this, the second roommate that I had, because he was a fucking drunk ass. This is also when I was." I owed $10,000 in medical debt.
Fuck.
Also, for an episode that I haven't told yet, but I owed $10,000 in medical debt, and then one day there's a knock at the door, and some guy asks for me, and my roommate comes and gets me, and I like come out of bed all bleary-eyed and walk up, and I'm like, "Hey, what's up?" And he's like, "You've been served," and hands me a packet of papers because I'm being sued for all my medical debt.
Fuck.
And I'm just like, why the fuck did you tell him I was here, man? Like, dude's in a suit with a manila fucking envelope, dude. Like,
do you know this guy?
Yeah.
Like, come on.
Right? So, yeah. So this is all just, like, compounding. And actually, like, this was my last time I ever sold weed, too. And I, like, got some weed fronted to me by this guy, and then one of my coworkers, like, stole a bunch of it from me.
Fuck.
It was just, dude, like, this is just, like, every shitty thing that could happen to me was happening to me
Jesus,
at this point in time. And
that's bullshit.
yeah, man, yeah. And, like, needless to say, I haven't sold weed in, you know, over 10 years, and that was my last endeavor because I had lost my ass on that because that dude fucking stole weed, so I couldn't even make my money back.
Right.
And then I owed the guy who fronted me the weed like all this money, and I had to like pawn a bunch of shit and fucking get him paid.
And weed was actually expensive back then.
Weed was hella expensive back then. It was $350 an ounce, dude. It was crazy.
Fucking hell.
Yeah, and I think this dude that I worked with stole an ounce from me, so it was like $350, man. And I'm like behind on rent. I'm behind on everything. So there you go, you know. So there's where I'm at. It was the worst. Definitely some of the darkest times for sure. And so I had a friend staying over with me, and I get up and like come out in the living room, and she's like, "Hey, a cop came by looking for you."
Oh, shit.
I'm like, "What do you mean?" And she's like, "Well, cop came by, asked for you by name." I was like, "First and last name?" She's like, "Yeah."
Jesus.
And she's like, "Yeah, but he, like, I told him you were here," which was fine because this was even after I had sold that last bit of weed. Like, I was completely not doing anything at this point. And she's like, "Yeah, I told him you were here because I didn't figure it was a big deal, right?" And I was like, "Yeah, it's not, honestly." And you know, like, I'd definitely like to know what was going on. And she was like, "Yeah." So she's like, "Yeah, I told him that you were sleeping," and the cop was like, "Oh, no biggie, just tell him to call me," and left a card. And I was like, "Well, that's weird. Why does a cop knock on the door, ask for me by name, says he's looking for me, knows I'm there, and then doesn't
just leaves his number,
and then is just like, no, it's fine.
That's weird.
You don't have to go get him or anything." It's like, okay,
that's real weird.
And so I sort of like sit on it for a few days, and I'm like, well, fuck that, whatever, dude. But then I'm starting to get weirded out. I'm like, why the fuck is a cop like knocking around? And so I decided to call him. I'm like, fuck, man, like, if a cop's looking for me, dude, like, I'd rather just get in the clear, you know? Right. And at this point in my life, I'm trying to like actually get in the clear. Like, I had been through a little bit of legal trouble. Also, I was being sued. XYZ, like, there was all this stuff, and I was like, you know what, I just want everything on the level right now, so I want to know what's going on. And so I call this cop,
And left me a card, call. I was like, yeah, hey, I got your card. My friend says that you came to my apartment and you were looking for me. Just wondering what was up with that. And he's like, oh yeah, why don't you come down to the station and talk to me? I was like, nah, man.
No.
Nah, like, why don't you tell me what you're looking for? Because obviously it wasn't a big enough deal to, like, wake me up or arrest me or come into my apartment or anything. So, like, why don't you tell me what's going on? And he's like, well, what were you up to on Thanksgiving? Because this was like 2 weeks after Thanksgiving, I think.
Okay.
Or 3 weeks or something. I was like, I don't know, man. I think I went and... Actually, no, because at this point I had just gotten my job at the movie theater.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, shit, man, I was working at the movie theater, dude. Like, you always work on Thanksgiving at the movie theater.
Of course. It's a big night.
And he's like, oh, okay, well, he's like, I have reason to believe that you helped these other guys, like, break into the mall and, like, steal a bunch of stuff.
Oh, come on.
And this is all over the phone, and I'm just like, what the fuck, man?
He's
like,
full of shit.
Well, right. And I'm like, dude, you're out of your mind. Like, what are you even talking about? And it was kind of this weird back and forth of just like, what are you talking about? And him being like, well, you really better just come down and talk to me and clear this up. And I'm just like, man, you know what? Fine. I will come talk to you because you're being super cagey over the phone. I know I'm in the clear. I didn't break into the mall. I didn't fucking do any of this shit. So I was like, all right, man, when do I need to come down? And, and so we set up a time. It was a couple days later. And so I go down to the police station, ask for this officer. And yeah, dude. It was just such bullshit, man. It's such bullshit that they put me through this ringer, too. Because, I go down there and wait for an hour before he's free and all this shit. And, and so then he comes and grabs me, and he's like, all right, let's go talk. And then he takes me into this little, like, interrogation room. Right. It's just a table and 2 chairs and a light, and that's it. And I'm just like, what the fuck, man? And I'm immediately just, like, on the defensive. I'm like, what am I doing here?
Yeah.
And, and he's playing the weird cop cagey shit of, like, oh, well, like I said on the phone, like... I know that you were involved with this
fucking break.
Robbery or whatever. Oh yeah, and that was the funny thing. He kept correcting me because I kept saying robbery, and he was saying theft. He was like, robbery is when another person's involved, and I was like, I don't care about your terminology. Like, come on, I don't care, man. Like, I didn't rob the mall, He's like, well, I didn't say you robbed the mall. I said you broke into the mall. I was like, dude, you are not gonna get me on a technicality here, man. Like, I don't know, like, what you're trying to do. It was the weirdest fucking thing.
Well, and he didn't have anything to pin on you. Otherwise, he would have just arrested you.
Exactly, man. And so I kept bringing that up. I was like, are you charging me with something? And he was like, no. But here's the thing. When I take this case to the DA and they prove that you were involved with this, they're going to really, like, throw the book at you.
Oh, my God.
And I was like, okay, cool.
That is the weakest fucking bullshit.
I was like, cool, what case do you have? And he was like, well... And he, like, spells the whole thing out for me. He was like, well, I know that you were hanging out with these guys playing poker the night after Thanksgiving. I was like... And actually, it was kind of weird because I did play poker at that point in time in my life,
right.
Like a little bit with friends, but I was like, okay. But he said it was, like, in my apartment complex. He was like, oh, they lived in J15. And I was like, fuck, dude, I don't know anyone in my apartment building besides these weird Russians.
Uh-huh.
But I don't think it had anything to do with the weird Russians because they didn't know my name. That's the other thing, too. He knew my name, full name, because, like... Okay, so the story went down that he was like, he finally, after all of my, like, grilling him, after he's grilling me, but I'm grilling him, I'm like, no, dude, you need to tell me. You need to, like, spell this out for me, because I can't tell you anything if you don't give me some more information. So he finally, like, spells the whole thing out. So, basically, some guys got together the night after Thanksgiving, were playing poker until 2 a.m, got in one of these guys' white vans, drove to the mall, broke into the mall, stole a television and a hookah. Yeah?
Wow.
And I just started laughing at that. I was like, dude, I don't need to steal a hookah, man. Like, what are you talking about, dude? Like, this is crazy.
It's hilarious.
And he's like, well, I know that you were involved because they all said that you were. And I was like, who's they? Like, who are these fucking people?
Right.
And he was like, oh, well, like, they're your buddies. And I was like, oh, are they? You know? And so, and I finally, like, get him to give me names. I was like, well, give me names, man. Like, who are these people? Who's fingering me?
This cop fucking sucks at his job.
Yeah, he does suck. That was the crazy thing, dude. Because, like, every bit of information he gave me eventually, because I kept being like, well, dude, I can't help you unless you tell me.
I can't believe he gave you names. That's insane to me.
Yeah, I was like, give me names. And he was like, okay, well, like, you definitely know so-and-so. And I was like, nope. And he was like, well, what about so-and-so? And I was like, nah, man, like, I don't know. And then I'm like, what do they look like? You know? And then he
gives you descriptions.
He busts out a fucking lineup, dude.
No.
He busts out a fucking photo sheet, and he was like,
way.
this guy and he's like pointing. He's like, this guy and this guy and this guy and you all went to the mall and stole this shit. And I was like,
wow,
holy shit, dude. And that's when I started laughing. I was like, okay, I don't know any of these people. I don't know any of the names that you're talking about. I don't know anyone else in my apartment building. I don't know anyone with a white van. And I wasn't playing poker the night after Thanksgiving. Like, you have nothing on me. And he sort of gets all disgruntled, and he's just like, well, like I said, you know, when I take this case to the DA, they're not going to take it easy on you because, you know, because you're not, like, cooperating here. And I was like, oh man. And like, that's, yeah. And I just started laughing, and I was like, dude, you don't know what you're into. Like, you don't even know what's going on. And I stood up and I was like, am I being charged? And he was like, no. And I was like, so I'm gonna leave. And he was like, you can technically. And I was like, cool, I'm leaving, have a good one.
Yep.
And just like got up and walked out of the interrogation room.
What a dumb fuck. Oh
Yeah.
my god.
Yeah. And so, like,
allow me to show you these pictures of the individuals who have fingered you.
Yeah.
I would also like to give you their full names.
yeah,
Would you like their address and identification?
he
as
did
well?
give me their address, J15 or whatever it was,
Right.
you know?
That's fucking right.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, if he was trying to get a hit out on these guys, you know, like, he was moving in the right direction.
Yeah, dude, right? And so, like, I just leave, and I'm just like, what in the actual fuck? What was that? Why did I get dragged down here
Goddamn Keystone Cops.
on my
Fuck.
goddamn day off to get interrogated by fucking Reno 911, dude? Like, fucking, yeah, like, dude had no idea, and he's just like, oh, well, man. And so, like, I leave, and yeah, obviously I never hear anything from him ever again. Never hear anything about it because, obviously.
Wow.
What gets me, though, the only thing that tripped me out for the longest time was that he came to my apartment and asked for me by name, by first and last name. Full first and last name.
He probably just had a list of everyone who lives in the fucking apartment complex.
I mean, okay, so this apartment complex was 20 buildings with 15 in each. Like, it was a huge complex. He's not just door-to-dooring every single one, right?
I don't know, man. Sounds like he was a pretty shitty cop.
Dude, I guess you're right.
Maybe he just did that to literally everyone in the apartment complex who matched a description, you know? Like,
And I'm the only dumbass who called him back and was like, all right, sure, I'll come down there.
he's like, fuck it. Maybe I can squeeze a confession out of one of these idiots.
Well,
you
and
know?
that was the hilarious thing, man. He was trying to squeeze a confession out of me, but I was like, dude, why would I fucking confess to something I didn't do with
Right.
people I don't know on a night I wasn't there? Like, what are you trying to get out of me, man? Like, I'm not some fucking idiot.
Exactly. Well, and this is why we have fucking people who are in jail for shit that they... Well, I'm sorry. This is one reason why we have people
Yes.
who are in jail for shit they didn't do, because some people are, like, not completely mentally fucking sound or whatever, and, like, cops bully them into fucking confessing to shit
Right.
that they didn't do.
And
you know?
coercion and bullying are real tactics. and he was clearly trying his best at both of them.
Right.
And, you know, I was just like, come on, man. Like, I've been around the block, dude. Like, what are you even fucking talking about?
Fucking dick.
Yeah, it was insane. And he was still so disgruntled with me as I was leaving. He's like, well, you know, like, I'm gonna take this case to the DA.
They're gonna throw the book at you.
Yeah, totally. It's like, good. I was like, you take that case to the DA.
Yeah.
You do it.
I encourage you to do so.
Yeah, I think you're gonna be in a whole world of hurt if you try and bring charges against me.
Right.
So anyway, that's kind of the big story here. But I have one other end story to living in this apartment, which I just has always tickled me so much. So that happened. Nothing obviously ever happened from it. I have laughed about it ever since. Told this story to some people and just been like, here's what an idiot cop looks like. Here's how you fuck up your job completely.
Oh, you don't still have his card, do you?
Oh my god, I wish I did. I wish I did, man. There, you know, I mean, there's probably a record of our meeting at some point because I went and checked into the police station and everything. So, you know, I could probably figure it out if I had to.
Hilarious.
But yeah, and so my fourth and final roommate I think I lived at this place for 2 years. Jesus. My fourth and final roommate, which is my dear friend Bugnosis.
Yeah!
Shout out Bugnosis. So he finished that apartment out with me. And also, like, props to you, man, because I was in a real bad way. I'd finally, like, didn't kick out, but, like, had a falling out with my third roommate that I lived in that place with, and was like, I don't know what I'm going to do because I can't afford this place on my own. And he was like, dude, I think I can just move in there and cover, like, the first month of rent, and, like, we'll just get back on our feet here and, like, get going. So
cool.
Yeah, so he helped me out a lot, and we continued. And yeah, as soon as he moved in, my life completely changed. I wasn't even smoking weed for those 2 years because I was just such in a paranoid bad state that, like, weed, like, made me feel like shit, dude. I would smoke and just be like, like, fucking you know, like, everything's going wrong, dude. Like, I can't, like, I just can't. And so he finally moved in, and I got to, like, feel normal again. Good. And we started playing, like, yeah, actually, that was the other thing that helped me too. Right before he moved in, I had started playing City of Heroes, you know. So I was like, all right, here's some video game addiction. Like, this will make you feel better and help you not spend money and go do anything. So,
fuck. Yeah,
so I did that, and then, like, he started playing with me and stuff. But one night, and again, we always kept things, like, real chill there. There were a couple nights that we had some people over, but, like, nothing crazy. And yeah, it was one night I got home at, like, 9 from work, and we were gonna go out to that shitty sports bar. And so I got home, I threw on some music. One of our friends was coming over. He was gonna bring some weed over, so we had no weed. We had, like, one little nug. I was like, okay, we'll burn this down, but our buddy's bringing us a new bag, so, like, we'll do that, and then we'll go to the bar. And and so we were, and because I had just the one little nug, we were doing knife hits, you know. And for the listener at home, this is where you you know, this day and age you don't have to, because you can dab and shit.
Well, and there's
now.
Vaporizer rigs, too.
And vaporizer rigs and everything, yeah. But back in the day, what you would do is you'd take 2 butter knives and jam them in the coils of your stove.
If you didn't have a gas stove.
Oh, yeah. If you had a coiled stove, you know, and so you jam them in the coils, you turn it on to full blast, you let those things heat up, then you take, like, a half-cut 2-liter, and, and we made an ice hitter, so we took the bottom half of the 2-liter, poked a bunch of holes in it, turned that around, packed ice into the top, and then jammed the bottom into it so that it was this giant, like, funnel, but then it had ice, right?
Yeah, cools it down.
Yeah, you had to, man. Because the knife hits would fucking kill you.
I mean, you know, you get used to it.
Yeah, totally. You get used to it, or sometimes you do weirder stuff, like we used to do, where we would bend over and, like, take 10 deep breaths.
You guys did this too?
And then take a knife hit.
No way!
Oh yeah.
No
dude.
way!
Yeah.
And
you did this?
Yeah, dude. Carl's Kitchen, man. Like,
dude.
You always had to have somebody who's a spotter too, because they're going down.
Oh yeah. Well, okay, so here, before I get into this, have we talked about it on the show? Have we talked about like the pass out game or the pass out thing?
I don't think so. But
did you ever do it?
So I have a lot of stories regarding the vasovagal response.
Is that what that is?
Yes.
Okay. For the listener at home, if you've never done this shit, basically what we would do is you would bend over, or you'd sit or whatever, and you'd put your head between your legs and you'd take like 20 deep breaths, like real deep breaths. Yeah, you'd hyperventilate, right? And then you would sit up and someone would grab your neck and just squeeze the sides of it and basically cut the oxygen off to your brain, and you'd fucking faint. You'd just go out like a light. Your body would tingle a bunch, or like you'd pass out, you'd wake up and your body would be all tingly and it'd be like, what the fuck, man? Yeah. It'd be this like real cheap ass fucking trip, dude.
Another way to do it, if you don't want to like press on someone's carotid, is like they hyperventilate for a while, then they press on their own carotid while you push on their chest so that they can't breathe.
Yeah, no, I eventually like learned to be able to do it myself. So like I would do this at home.
You would do it yourself?
Yeah.
You're madman.
I know, right?
Not even self-respecting enough to get some nitrous oxide.
No, and not even while wanking it either. So,
well, that's a good thing.
Yeah, no, totally, right?
Too many good people have gone that way.
Well, and and the thing is I still only use my hands, so I would just hyperventilate, squeeze my own neck, fucking faint, and then wake up like 10 seconds later, right? Like I didn't have a rope around my neck or anything, so like nothing really could go wrong. Right. So like once I pass out, my hands go limp.
Yep.
Oxygen returns. Anyway, still very dangerous. Listener at home, don't do this.
Yeah.
This is shit that 13-year-olds do to fucking get high.
Exactly. But that said, I don't know if I'm cutting out of your segue here.
No.
But years later, I'm living with Matt and Guy, and Matt's had a short hair cat for a little while that I'm allergic to, but I seem to be dealing with it with allergy pills and stuff. And so Guyton's like, can I get a cat? And I was like, well, yeah, I mean, I guess. Fuck. And he brings home a long hair.
Oh, good.
And that definitely set off my allergies. And what I didn't realize at the time is that I have asthma. And, I just thought I had a cough because I smoked so much fucking weed, So, like, I've been struggling with what I think is bronchitis or pneumonia or something. Like, I've like got all this fucking phlegm in my lungs that I'm coughing up and like having a hard time breathing. And we're fucking down in the basement hitting the bong, and I start coughing really hard, and next thing I know, I'm like doubled over, my head's between my knees, and I'm staring down at a shattered bong. And I'm like, oh no, what happened? And everyone's like, dude, are you okay? I'm like, I broke the bong. We know, but are you okay? Like, what the fuck just happened? And I'm like,
oh no,
I don't know. I think I passed out from coughing. And they're like, yeah, that's not normal, dude. Like, you need to go get help. And so, I went to the doctor and I explained what happened. And she's like, dude, you have asthma. And I'm like, no, I have pneumonia. And she's like, oh, okay, well, here's the deal. I'm going to put you on a nebulizer for the next 5 minutes, and we'll figure out if you have asthma or not. And so...
What's a nebulizer?
It's so it's like a thing, like the little tubes that they put in your nose, and like you just breathe through that, and it'll nebulize a medication. It's like another form of vaporization that I don't know what the difference is, but yeah, it makes medication breathable. And so you just breathe some albuterol through your nose, which is what's in all the asthma inhalers,
right?
And after a while, if you have asthma, it makes it so you can breathe again. And she said that when she put that thing on me, my lungs were at like, I don't remember, like 40%. Something like that. It was a low number. It was less than 50, but I can't imagine it was less than 40. And she said when after 5 minutes on the nebulizer, my lungs were at 80%, and that's a pretty clear-cut case of asthma. She's like, besides, if you had pneumonia, you'd have like a fever and stuff, and you don't. So you know, it's not pneumonia.
You confused asthma with pneumonia.
I'd had pneumonia and bronchitis so many fucking times that I was just like, well, this is clearly what it is, you know.
Damn.
And yeah, it's just fucking asthma. And like, who knows how many times I don't know. I have respiratory issues that were undiagnosed. And she explained to me that the reason I passed out was because I coughed so hard that my lungs compressed the nerve that runs along your spine, which is called the vagal nerve.
Fuck.
And that's why when you push on someone's chest while they're hyperventilating,
shit.
they will pass out, is because their lungs are compressing the vagal nerve.
Oh, shit. Damn.
So yeah, I mean, like, your carotid has something to do with it, but most of it is like the vagus.
Oh yeah, so that actually that makes more sense. Because we definitely had a technique. It was like squeeze the sides of the neck, but also you put the like fingertips, like pressure on the spine too.
Yep.
And it's just like you just fucking like do that. Dude, the first time I ever did it in junior high, this kid fucking, I think his name was like Jared. I don't remember his name, but dude, they did it to make fun of me, which is fucked.
That is fucked.
But yeah, we had this classroom that was like divided by like a divider, but the door was open, and so it was like during a work period or whatever. And like the teacher said, like, you know, some kids can go in there if you want to like work or whatever. And so I think I went in there because, again, I was in junior high and didn't like anyone, and no one liked me. And I was in there, and this kid Jared came in with like a couple other kids, and they were like, "Hey, dude, you want to do something cool?" And I was like, yeah, like, okay, I guess." And he was like, "Okay, like, all you got to do is just like bend over and breathe heavy like 15 times or whatever." And I was like, "Okay." And so I did that, and I stood up, and then he didn't tell me what he was going to do, and then he leapt at me and started choking me, basically.
Oh, Jesus.
And yeah, and I fucking panicked. I like freaked out, but then passed out instantly.
Oh my God.
And like hit the fucking floor, woke up on the ground, and they're all fucking laughing. And I was just like, what the fuck was that? And they were like, "Oh, dude, it's the pass out game. Like, it's funny." Like, and I was like, "Well, why didn't you tell me you were gonna fucking attack me?" And he was like, "Sorry, like, I didn't think you would do it otherwise," and all this stuff. And I was like, yeah, I probably wouldn't have, man. Like, but then also I remembered like the tingly sensation was like, okay, well, this is weird. And so then like told my friends about it, and we started doing it like down at the park and shit.
Of course you did.
Yeah, totally. No, and I remember this one time my friend Sam, I didn't know we were going to get into this whole conversation, but this is cool.
Here we are.
One time my friend Sam, dude, and this was kind of the end of it too, like, because we were doing it down at the park, like, here and there, and my buddy Sam, like, and we even did it with him sitting down, and you know, he'd fucking breathe heavy. Like, I jumped in, grabbed his neck, watched his eyes roll back, and he sort of faded, and then and he was like falling backwards, and someone was there to catch him. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden he just lurched forward and slammed his face into the fucking ground.
Oh,
and like
ow, dude.
Broke his glasses and got a bloody nose and shit. Well, and he like lurched forward face first into the ground and then like twitched, and we called it fishing out.
Well, right, yeah.
Yeah, like...
Does he wiggle, yeah.
Yeah, he was, like, wiggling and shit, and we're like, "Oh, shit, dude." I think two of the dudes, like, got up and started running. You know? Like, we're like, "Oh, shit." Like, fuck. And, like, all of a sudden he, like, comes to. He's got fucking grass and dirt on his face. His glasses are broken. He's bleeding out of his nose. And we're just like, "Dude, are you okay?" And he's like, "What the fuck happened?" And all this shit, you know? And we're just like, "Oh, my God, dude. Like, you started falling backwards, and we went to catch you, and you just lurched forward and went face first into the fucking ground, man." And he's just like, "Oh, my head hurts," and all this shit. And we're like, "Dude, yeah. Oh, my God. Like, you fucked yourself up." Like, yeah. And so I think we kind of stopped doing it after that.
Well, yeah, everybody grows out of it.
Yeah,
it's fucking scary.
Yeah,
you know?
dude. Once you see someone fish out, you're just like, "Oh,
Yeah.
dude, this is sketch, man."
Dude, yeah.
And obviously it is sketch. This is so stupid, right?
Well, and so, you know, it's clearly a great idea that we encourage people to do this with drugs later on in life, you know.
Oh, man. So I have another story about when I did this on acid that I won't do right now because it's a whole other story.
Right.
But
Well, we used to try to pass out on nitrous while we were on acid, and that was always fun.
Oh my god. Yeah, see, what the fuck, man?
Yeah, saw some weird shit that way, I tell you what.
Yeah, dude. No, look, yeah. I have put a pen in it. I have another story for that. But yeah, so fucking pass out game. Wait, so so this is my other anecdote from doing knife hits. So we hadn't done the pass out game for years, but we started doing knife hits and we decided like, and I think it probably got brought up of like, oh, remember the pass out game? Like, what if we hyperventilate and then take a knife hit? Like, I bet we'll get real fucked up, right? And sure enough, so like one time we're doing it and yeah, my buddy George fucking, like, we had all done one, I think, and, you know, we're just like, whoa, and, like, had to, like, wander into the living room, like, sit down on the couch and stuff, but my buddy George, like, goes ham, dude. And he was kind of the dude who always went ham. Like,
right.
This dude always wanted to, like, escalate things to 11, you know?
Sure.
And so he's just, like...
adrenaline junkie.
You know, taking these huge deep breaths, head between his legs, and he's, like, you know, wants us to dish him up this huge knife hit, and we're just like, all right, man, like, you know, you do you. He fucking gets up, and he grabs the fucking knife hitter and we serve him the knife hit, and like, oh yeah, and like for the listener at home, to finish out how knife hits work, so someone grabs the funnel, right, and then two other people take the two knives, you drop the little like bit of weed on one, and then you smash the other hot knife into it and it just vapes the weed, and you do that right under the funnel, right, and then you just suck that in, right? And so yeah, we're like, fucking, we drop the hit, fucking do it, he fucking rips this giant knife hit after hyperventilating, and then we just watch him, like, we just watch his eyes roll back, he falls back into the corner of the kitchen, throws the funnel like across the kitchen, hits the ground, and then just starts fishing out, dude. And we're just like, oh my god, dude, no. And then like he comes to like 10 seconds later and was like, what the fuck? And we're like, yeah, dude, like that was fucked up, man. Like, he completely passed out and like threw the knife hitter and like, yeah. And so anyway,
so in our circle, it started as kind of a hazing ritual.
Oh yeah.
It was for folks who'd never done knife hits of hash, and we used to do big honking fucking hits.
Yeah, so knife hits of hash were where it was at too.
And so like you know, what we would do is, you know, like the person who was serving would like get in front of them and be like, okay, you know, here's how you do it. You're gonna fucking hyperventilate, you're gonna come up, you're gonna do the hit, and then you're gonna drop back to your knees as you're blowing it out.
There you go.
Because
smart.
That got them closer to the ground,
right,
so they wouldn't fall down and pass out. And then someone would always surreptitiously just kind of like sneak up behind them, so that like if they did lay out, like you had someone to catch them.
This conversation is like so fucking embarrassing.
But I tell you what, man, I seriously enjoyed my first one of those. Like,
dude,
it was
me too.
Great.
I'm not gonna lie, man.
And like everyone else, like who I was there for their fucking first hit like that was like, dude, that was amazing.
Yeah, no, like, I mean, I'm not gonna lie that I enjoyed kind of every time we did the pass out game, because it's crazy, man. Because you go out and then as you're coming back to, it's like,
it's a cold boot, you know, like all of your fucking senses come back online, like one by one. You're just like, who am I? Oh, that's right, this is a thing that I'm in. Weird, you know. Like,
oh, it is. It's like waking up dead cold out of a lucid dream, because you're just like, who am I? What am I? Like, and then your body tingles, and then you're just like, yeah. And cold boot's totally right. You're like, oh, and I'm breathing, and I can see, and I can hear. Okay, you know, like, it's fucking crazy, man. Yeah. Still don't recommend, because it's just dangerous and stupid.
No one should do this.
Yeah,
we were stupid kids, and we were fucking trolling each other. Like,
yeah,
it's just kind of a bad way to be. But you know.
Yeah, for real.
We didn't know any better.
So, bringing it all back, knife hits. So we're in my apartment, and we've got this one tiny nug, and we're like, let's knife hit these so we can get the most bang for our buck. Even though we got more weed coming, we're just like, no, dude. And I had just got off work. I think I just cracked my first beer. I put on some music. I even remember the tune I was playing. I'll put it in the show notes. It was a band called EQ, ICU. And I don't remember the song name, but I'll find it. Cool. But yeah, and it's like not even that bassy of a tune. And so the way our apartment's framed, and I'll try and explain this for the listeners. So like, so we had like a front door, and then like a little alcove that basically, if you walk down these stairs, you'll hit our front door, but then also you'll see into our kitchen. There's like a little kitchen window right there.
So it's like a split level?
It was an apartment. We were on the bottom level of 3 or 4 stories, right? And so basically, if you come walking down the stairs and look to your left, you'll see the kitchen window. Which also means if you open the front door, you're practically in our kitchen. Mm-hmm. And so I get served up my knife hit, and I fucking inhale it, and as I inhale it, I can see through the kitchen window, and I watch a cop walk down the front down the stairs, Jesus, and knock on my door, and I'm just like, that's a cop. And just like blow the hit out, like basically right into the front door, and I'm just like, fuck, dude. And he can see into our kitchen, and I'm just like, fuck, okay, well, I'm gonna go answer the door. And so like I answer the door, and just like all this fucking knife hit weed like smoke just like billows out right into his face, and he's just like, hey. I'm like, hey. You know, like, no illusions, dude. I'm not even gonna pretend at this point. Yep. And I'm just like, hey, what can I do for you? And he's like, oh, you guys smoking a little weed? I was like, definitely, I just got off work. And he was like, okay, you know why I'm here? And I was like, actually, no clue. And he was like, well, I got a noise complaint that your music was too loud. And the music was still at the volume I had it playing, which wasn't loud. And he was like, which is weird, because I couldn't hear it walking up, and it's not very loud. Yeah. And I was like, yeah, I know. So why are you here? And he was like, well, like, that's why, but obviously you're smoking weed. And I was like, definitely. And I was like, but it's a misdemeanor, so like, do you want to give me a ticket? And he was like, all right, well, like, he's like, tell you what, man, round up all the weed you have in the house and give it to me, and you know, like, I won't charge you or anything. And I was like, all right, deal. You know, I was like, it's better than arguing with you and like you like trying to get a warrant or trying to come into my house. I was like, you know what, deal. Because honestly, all I had was the tiny little nug in my jar. And so I like go and walk around the house. I think I even brought him a pipe too. I was like, here's a glass pipe, here's my jar with like one little tiny nugget in it. And he like holds it up to the light, like rattles it around. He looks at me and he's like, that's it? I was like, dude, shit's expensive. And he's like, and he looks at me and he's like, man, how am I supposed to make Drug Squad with this? And I just look at him and smile, and I was like, I told you, man, it's expensive. And he's like, all right, fine. And he like takes the pipe, he like pockets the pipe, walks out onto he was like, come out here, walks out on my front lawn, unscrews the jar, dumps the tiny little nugget down out on the grass, screws the jar back up, hands it back to me. It's got keef in it and shit. He hands it back to me. And he's just like, all right, well, clearly I don't have any business here. I was just like, yeah, dude, sorry, man. Sorry you didn't make Drug Squad. And he's just like, he kind of laughs and is just like, all right, well, you know, keep the music down. I was like, all right, I will. Like, go back in. But as he's dumping the fucking nugget out, my buddy who was bringing us weed and was going out to the bar like comes walking up, and he like kind of strolls up and like walks down the stairs and like walks into our apartment. Cop doesn't say anything. And we're just like, hell yeah, because he's got like split up bags in his pocket too, you know. And so he's just like, okay, oh my God. Yeah, dude,
classic.
So that was kind of the end of that apartment, though. That was the night where I was like, fuck, dude, we gotta get out of here, man. People are like pinning me for shit that I didn't do. People are calling the cops for music that's not loud. Like, what the fuck, man? Like, we gotta get out of here.
Yeah, no shit.
And so we did. We, like, buckled down. We were like, all right, let's make a plan. Let's find a place to live. And we moved out, like, 2 months later.
Nice.
But, yeah. But that's,
Jesus.
So that's, like... And this story, or, like, those couple stories are funny to me because these are 10 years ago. These are well after my younger, like, wild days.
Right.
Like, this was my interaction with cops after the days where I really was getting into shit. It was like, I wasn't doing shit at this point in my life, dude. And I still was getting fucking harassed by cops, man. It was crazy.
Yeah, no shit.
But, like, they didn't have anything because there was nothing to
fucking
have on
fake ass noise complaint. What the fuck?
Yeah, man. And, like, I don't know who called it in because at that point, the upstairs neighbors that used to bitch at me all the time, I think they had moved out. At one point, I even confronted them, too, because after they were, like, pounding on my floor a bunch, because you could hear their door open. You could hear all the doors open. And one night, I was just waiting and, like, listened and heard the door open and close, and I ran out of my apartment. And it was just this, like, college-age girl, and so I probably freaked her out, but I, like, ran up from my steps, and I was like, hey, I'm your neighbor. What's the problem? And she was like, and I was like, hey, you, like, pound on my floor or on my ceiling all the time, and, like, we don't play music that loud. And she was like, oh, no, that wasn't me. And I was like, well, is it your roommate? Like, would you like me to, like, go knock on your door? And she was like, and, like, I felt kind of bad because I think I freaked her out a lot, but I was just, like, so sick of it. I was like, talk to me. What the fuck is going on? And all this shit. And she was just like, no, like, you're cool. Like, we don't have any problem with you and stuff. And I was like, okay.
Wow.
Fucking hell. Because I had tried, like, knocking on their doors before when I knew they were home. They just wouldn't answer and stuff. And I was just like, oh my god. That apartment was a fucking nightmare. Long story short, the whole point of the story was that apartment was a fucking nightmare, dude. Finding diapers on my back porch and just, like, all this shit, fucked. Man. It was that shit. So whack, dude.
I hate shitty apartments. I've lived in a few. It's the worst.
Yeah, and I mean, like, you know, yeah, right? Like, living in apartments is always the worst. Occasionally you get lucky and you have some cool people around you, which we did when we moved out here to Portland. We ended up meeting several of our really good friends out here living in this apartment, but most of the time, yeah, it's a nightmare. You just have people, like, being fucking awful and shitty to you.
Well, yeah, it's like having a million roommates who all don't give a fuck about you. You know?
Yeah, totally, man. Sharing walls is the worst, man.
Yeah.
And
bad idea.
You know, and it's like, and I'll fully admit, I'm the loud roommate, or I'm the loud neighbor, the loud roommate. Like, I like to bump my tunes. I like to drink and, you know.
Also, these fucking places aren't properly insulated. They don't have fucking sound walls.
No, totally.
You know, like, at best, they've got a firewall between the two houses, you know, and like.
No, actually, at one point in time when I lived in that apartment, I got super stoked because some people moved in next to me. And one night, like, we were just chilling, and all of a sudden I could just hear gorillas, like, clear as day coming through the wall. So I just went over there and was like, hey, what are you guys up to? And they're like, oh, like, we're just partying. I was like, cool, yeah, I'd like to party. And they're like, yeah, cool, come in. And, like, ended up drinking with them and, like, bumping gorillas and talking music with them.
Yeah.
Ended up hanging out with those guys a few times. They were, like, a little younger. Like, yeah, I think they were all, like, under 21. Yeah, but anyhow, like, yeah, it was crazy. Dude, there's another night at that apartment complex, too, that I came back from working at the bar. So it's, like, 2:30 in the morning. And I'm, like, strolling into my house with, like, an 18-pack. And, like, some neighbors kind of, like, across the way are like, hey, man, you want to drink a beer with us? And I was like, you know what? Sure. Like, definitely. I walk over there and, like, they're like, yeah, man, we missed the fucking bar close. Like, you drink some of that beer with us? And I was like, definitely. They're like, cool, because we have a shit ton of cocaine. I was like, oh shit.
Wow.
So that's what we got to do that night. And, like, yeah, so, like, there were ups and downs. But,
for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a crazy apartment for sure. But goddamn, like, cops are still showing up in my life.
Fucking ridiculous.
No.
Man, I have some friends who, like, went really deep on the knife hits rabbit hole and like ended up getting a glass blower to blow them a couple of glass like spoons, like thick handles, but like really thin, flat, like borosilicate.
I also knew some people who were really into the knife hits and got like like custom fucking hitter
and
or like custom hitter
and
and
glass
custom
funnel with a fucking screen on the bottom so that you could put. It wasn't even a screen; it was just like an ice catcher, you know, like in a bong, you know, and like you just fucking throw fucking. I think it was just a bong that they'd like.
Yeah,
had the blower like fucking. It was like a fuck up or something. They're like, yeah, just fucking cut the bottom off of that, and fucking roll the edges, and like we got a fucking hitter, you know. Like, so they had a glass funnel that they kept in the freezer, and then they had the two spoons, and like if you were hanging out with Drew, rest in peace, Drew. Then you were fucking hitting the glass knives over there.
Oh hell yeah, dude!
It was sick.
Yeah, I mean, we even kept our makeshift hitter in the freezer, you know. It was just like, dude, it's in the fucking door.
Yeah.
You know, like we just got to keep that ice cold.
That's how you do.
Yep. No, occasionally there were the nights where like we did too many knife hits and I'd wake up and the hitter's just sitting out with like a pool of water because all the fucking ice had melted out of it.
Oh,
just like basically a pool of bong water because it's all like resonated ice and shit.
Oh, we used to do that. Like you put ice in the fucking down tube or just the tube of the bong, you know, and like you forget about it. It melts and like all the extra water just comes out the
it just shoots out the fucking downspout.
Yeah. It's just like, oh, why is the bowl all wet? Oh, why is the floor all wet?
Yeah.
Oh
no! Totally.
It's like some soggy half bowl left in the bong, you know?
Totally.
Damn it. We are bad stoners.
Dude, for real. Anyway. That's that, man. Knife hits.